How's it going, everyone? This is Anon. None of this is financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. Sorry for the late start. I was hanging out with the in-laws, and my wife is out with a friend, so I had to put the kids to bed tonight. I don't know if anyone will jump on, but we can always check and just see. Hey, what's up, CJ? What's up, Yes? How are you guys? Sorry for the late start. I was just explaining that it's one of those days where my wife was out with a friend, and so on those days, then, I have to put the kids to bed, so typically get a later start on these things. But I had dinner at the in-laws without my wife, actually, there, which was nice. We had pizza and wings, so that was good. All right, yeah, very interesting day today. Very weird, right? So I think I showed you guys this on if I could pull up the daily. I made those 3 levels, right? And you can see we touched and broke through, and then we got pushed down. We touched it here. They tried gapping up and going over. Today it rejected off there, but now they're trying to push it up over after hours. So my worst nightmare is dinner at the in-laws without my spouse. Nah, I was gonna say I have a good relationship with my in-laws, so we're good there. And actually, they're watching my niece and nephew, my wife's sister's kids, and they're good kids, and they're helping watch my kids. So that was fun. I got to talk to my in-laws a little bit, so yeah. What's up, Isaac? Yo. Yeah, but we have a good relationship, so that's always a good thing. What do you think about? All right, we're gonna go into it. Let me pull up my stuff. You know what I have to do? Hold on a second. Let me close down. Close down some stuff and then get it all ready for you guys. We'll pull up our normal stuff that we go through, and alright, so we need, let's pull up dilution tracker. I guess we need to go into pulling up VRAX Biolabs. All right. So this is dilution tracker for anyone that's new to these. So we actually have if you guys are interested in this product, we do have a code inside of our Discord that gives you a percentage off. It's a free code, so let me see if I can pull it up real quick. I'll leave a link inside the comments. Let me see, but it's in our Discord and it's pinned there. That way, it's under discount code and sponsors. But anyway, they're actually a great. Here it is. I found, how do I link this? Let me see. Copy ID. That doesn't sound right. Copy link message. There we go. All right. So what I can do is I guess, pull up YouTube and post it in. Here we go. I'll post it inside the YouTube chat. And that's our Discord as well. If you're not part of the Discord, it's free, and I'll provide a link as well. But that goes over, basically, they give you 10% off if you use that code. If you're going to buy it anyway, you might as well get a little bit off, right? All right, so we will invite people and pull up, generate new link. We'll post it in there too for you guys. Okay, so we'll go back into it, and I'll kind of explain how it works and why I always check there first, just because there's the link to the free Discord. and we all hang out in there and talk stocks and stuff like that. Okay, so we need to pull that back over. So why I always start here is because I feel like this gives you a pretty good sense of, all right, the like fundamental basics of a stock. So I can see right off the bat here that they had 10 million shares outstanding, and then recently they must have added 1.37, right? And if I look here, they even give sometimes their takes. So their IPO also included a resale of 1.94 million shares by selling shareholders. So that's why the float went up. All right, so they've got plenty of cash, right? So that's dilution's not really a worry here. That's what I would tell you. They're technically they're not cash positive. They don't have cash flow positive, but at the same time, they've got like 100 and something months based off their recent cash burn, because they're brand new, so we don't know a ton. But if they're not spending a huge amount, then that's a good thing, because most time biotechs have to spend a bunch. I mean, they're obviously only like a couple days. They're like 2 weeks old. They've got a PCR detection kit. Let's see. So holders, we don't have any holders yet because they're new. They must be foreign, because I'm seeing, foreign issuer report. So normally you would see an 8K, but if you're foreign, you see a 6K or some variation of it, depending on, I guess, where you're based out of. All right, so this is the IPO. I guess they were initially offering of $5 a share for the 1.9 million ordinary shares. Here you go. So that's the shares the underwriters get, and then the proceeds. This is how much they would actually get from the, after expenses, which gives them a good chunk of change to, go into it with. Okay. Let's see. I don't see anything hugely like red flag wise off the bat, so that's always a good thing. I'd love to see their actual financials, but we don't have those yet. I'm sure it's probably included in one of these filings. I'm just not going to go through every single one of them, but at the same time, I don't see any immediate red flags on this thing, so I would say that's a good thing. So that passed step one for VRAX. Okay, let's take a look at their chart real quick. I'll just do it on this one. All right. So why do people like this one? Why are we looking at this one? Hee hee. Alright, so here is, was that the 1 hour? Let's go to the daily real quick. Okay, so that's a pretty big swing from $5 all the way to 20 something, and now it's been sitting here in the tens. So off the bat, what I can tell you is, just looking at the daily for the couple days that it's been active, you had this massive day here, right? So that's a massive day for them. That's a huge swing. I mean, that's what, like from 5, what's the low? 5 something? 5, maybe 4 something? All the way up to 20 something in the same day. That's highly unusual. You can see here the purple line, that's the ADL line. So what it looks like is most of the money flowed in this day. The money, the OBV, everybody started buying on this day, right? But they're pushing down the price, which is the purple line. That's what it shows me. We haven't had enough to do CCI or Awesome or TTM Squeeze because it's still pretty new. So, and my 6-month-old just fell fast asleep listening to you. I'll try to be quiet, but yeah, I appreciate it. I've been told I do have a ASMR voice by my wife. She was like, you should do one of those podcasts. All right, so what we have here then is, to me, this looks like they're still going to try to push it down here, but it looks like the biggest drop obviously was that 1 day of volumes. Headphones in now. Yeah, I was going to say, if I start being loud and do that, but I should probably just read some books on tape or something. That could be my secondary job. All right, so this is interesting because it looks to me like, was there news on this? I want to see. Yeah, BBAI, I actually have a position on personally, Jake. So just throwing it out there, I'll cover and do a deep dive if you want. I actually like the company long term, and I think it was kind of like silly when those, I know there was a couple people that tried squeezing it on short squeeze, and I'm like, you guys know they were warrants, right? Like at like 11, and people were like, yeah. Okay, so this was the monkeypox news. They must have like had a vaccine or something, and now they're trying to keep it under control. Okay, that makes sense. So let me do this. I'm going to pull up Ortex just to see if there's any information on there about, because they're probably trying to get this thing under control. So, VRAX, right? What's it called? VRAX? Do they not have it yet? I typed it in, right? VRAX. Nothing. Okay, so they don't have it yet. Let's see. How about, what if we tried Fintel? Give me a second. Sometimes I've had issues with Fintel on here. So let me see what we got. Interesting. REV is actually leading both the short squeeze and the gamma squeeze board, but they're getting pushed down, so that's pretty interesting. Okay, VRAX. Okay, so they do have it in Fintel. Ortex is behind the curve. Shocking. I know I use them, but yeah, so they don't have a ton of information on this thing. Like, there's basically nothing. There's no 13Fs. There's no... How about short interest? Is there any short interest on it? It's saying there's no short interest at this point either. It's still pretty new, so... And they've got the ability to short it, but it's like, I don't know if you want to short it. But look at these rates. I wouldn't want to short it. Somebody will. Someone probably shorted it at 20-something. When it ran up to 20-something up here, someone shorted it probably then, and then bought back in somewhere down here. Yeah, I don't see anything. It's going to be based off of basically, like, I just don't have enough information to make a call on this at this point. If they had a balance sheet and other things, I'd be feeling a little bit better about it. To me, I would watch volume, because volume's going to matter on this. If the volume's dying, they're going to push the stock wherever they want. If there's massive volume, then you're going to see it probably take a step up. So... But yeah, I don't see any immediate red flags on it. So that's my take on it. At this point, there's not enough information, but that's what I see. What's up, guys? I'm just seeing a bunch of people piling in. What's up, Vlad? What's up, Jerry? What's up, Awesome? What's up, Jonathan? Mount St. Funk, Spencer, Jake. All right. So monkeypox, hee. Yeah. All right, good stuff. All right, let's go over BBAI, because I think this is a stock that a lot of people don't know about, but they should, because I think these guys long term, Now, here's the thing about these guys. These guys aren't a squeeze play, and I know that's kind of what they're known. Like this, people that come in here all knew me through like squeeze plays, but fundamentally, these guys are an interesting stock, and I'll show you why. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Goat pox. I don't. That's the next one, right? Next crossover world-ending epidemic is going to be goat pox. Scare's going to give us all goat pox. All right. Let me just check something. Did I do what I was supposed to? Check real fast. Hold on. I'm so bad at this. I'm like not great at spreading my own information out. Like I found out the other day, like I forgot to monetize like half my videos. It wasn't half. It was a couple. It was more like 2 or 3. But like in the last like week, it'd been like half the ones I put out. I didn't like hit the monetize button, so I guess I was giving ads away for free because YouTube will still put them on there, but I just won't get any credit for them. All right, so let's see real quick what we got. Fintel is what I need. And let's see if I can pull it up real quick. Okay, almost there. Okay. All right, so Fintel, I'm pulling up right now. We'll bring it over here. We got BBIG. All right, so Big Bear, if you guys know who these guys are, they do like AI and they do like predictive modeling, I think, powered by artificial intelligence, and it's super interesting. So they actually predicted based off the like satellite imagery. They had built like a program to watch like I guess the Russian border, and they saw that stuff was building up, and so they actually predicted the invasion into Crimea before it happened, and like alerted the Pentagon. They do a whole bunch of stuff like that, but it's very interesting. So I think like that's something that people should take a look at long term. This could be a company that might be worthwhile if you're looking for something that's gonna be a growth stock in the future. But right now, it's not going to do anything for you. So if you can park some money there, you also could look at the warrant option, because these guys have warrants as well, which is a cheaper way of basically holding for the future. But if you wanted to maximize, you would probably at this point be buying the actual shares down at 2. But let me pull this up real quick. Here we go. And let me try something I've never done before. I never go on StockTwits. Just not something I normally do. It's not. I don't have anything against it. It just I never remembered to do it. I wonder if I can post on there. Can I post on there? It's been such a long time. I don't even know if I am not a robot. Hang on. Okay. So we did that. Here's what I want to do. So let's go over real quick this. So insiders own right now, according to this, 91% of the company. All right. So that's obviously very high ownership, right? Which means that the float's small. Okay. So if you look, though, at owners, if you go to institutional owners, who's buying this stock? Right? Here it is. Okay. So if we go to shares, right, they're an aerospace defense ETF, Investco, Susquehanna, so it's a hedge fund. They did lower their position slightly from these, but they still have the position. Jane Street, Walleye, Citadel. So smart money's in on this, right? You can see right here, there's a bunch of these Barclays, Wells Fargo, like Citadel's other group. They all own this stock. So in this case, this is a stock that will be interesting. Now, obviously, like, let's see what the average price paid on some of these guys. Like, these guys bought at 6. These guys bought at 728, 728. They all hold calls on this thing, 703. So buying at 2, granted, when they bought these things, my guess was it was before they diluted. But, like, either way, they're going to have to get if they want to get their money back up that way, they would have to basically go through and push the stock price up to those levels again. Unless they're averaging down, obviously. Yeah. So, but here's the thing, right? So my guess would be why they pushed down the price would be because, one, it diluted, so obviously that moves things down. But the other part of it is, I think people want to acquire this long term, and they're just trying to make sure it's pushed down. Because why acquire it when it's high when you can push it down, acquire it when it's low, scare all the other people that are investing in it out, and then when these guys, do have a great quarter, everyone's going to be buying in, and they can, either unload their shares and make money, selling it, or they can hold on long term and be part of their, their long term, Some of these guys will probably increase their holdings if they do that. So these guys right here are probably all insiders, is my guess. Or what are they called? Like strategic partners. So this is the holding company that holds most of the shares. So, but yeah, this is a stock that I'm looking at long term as, like, this could be possibly a really good stock to hold in the future. So, yeah, like, you can look at the financials and stuff like that. They had a rough earnings. I think that's what brought down some of their stuff. But overall, I think they're going to be fine. Just, based off what I was reading about the leadership there. Former military guy, I'm obviously military also, so I respect that. But, most of the time, these types of companies that have this sort of like military intel, and, they do fine over the long term of time. So, yeah, let's pull up Ortex on them real quick, so you can kind of get a look at what's going on. But yeah, for me, I'm buying this stock slowly. Every time it dips, I just buy more because at this point right now, this is when people are trying to squeeze it, and I'm like, you guys don't really know. I was like they have warrants. I did buy down here because I was like, this is undervalued. And we did sell some here at the top, and then it dipped back down. And then I've been buying from basically here all the way down. They did dilution, I think, sometime around this area right here. All right. So, but if you look at these guys right here, let's see what the short interest is doing. Yeah, it's only 3% short interest. It's not really a squeeze stock, but it's low liquidity. And if you look at the cost to borrow over time, the cost to borrow has been really high on the stock. People don't really like lending it out. Like, this is like 600% cost to borrow. It's still hovering in the 300s. So the cost to borrow on this is, if you want to short the stock, it's a high fee, which is why it's, sitting here with only 3% short interest. So not so much a squeeze stock, but a solid long-term play for me. And so I'm taking a look at them, So the free float they're saying is about 11 million, according to Ortex. I'd have to do a calculation on the free float of this thing, because I think we said that institutions or institution slash insider ownership on this thing was like 111 million or something like that. Yeah, 116 million is what they're saying out of 127 million shares outstanding. So that would leave roughly about 11 million float, right? Is that what they have here? 11 million. Yeah. So 11 million share float. So it's small for, free float. Explain the 600 cost to borrow. Surely you don't have to pay 600% of the share price. It's basically, I guess the way to put it is, it's like a credit card. Like you have an APR on a credit card, right? So if you want to short the stock, you basically have to pay that much interest to short the stock. The higher it is, obviously, the less. Unless you're absolutely positive that something's going to go down really, really aggressively, you normally wouldn't want to hold on to that for like a year, because that's an extremely high cost to borrow. Now, here's the thing, though: if you only do it on a couple million shares, you may be fine for example, Ethereum. I'll use them as an example. So shorts have been holding on to them because overall, 40% cost to borrow is still high. And you'll see it right here. So it's like 50% cost to borrow, right? Still high, but it's not terrible, because if you look at it, they're only spending like $23 million to short it. Now, to us, that sounds like a lot, but to these hedge funds, that's like a drop in the bucket. So for them, they can easily just push stock like this up and down, because they're only using that much. Now go back to BBAI, right? If you go to the shorts on this, they're under $1 million right now short. So for them, yeah, it's a high cost to borrow, but it's not that bad. It's less than $1 million of actual short interest against it. It's a yearly cost, but yeah, it acquires over time, so that's how it works. So obviously, if you hold it for 6 months, you're paying a good chunk of that, actual APR, and that fluctuates depending on when you borrow the shares. Sometimes that's why they if you notice, there's shares on loan, but then there's also a different category for when they actually short them, right? So you may have a higher shares on loan than you do actual short interest. If you look here, the live short interest on this stock is 360. If you look at the shares on loan, it's almost 700,000. That means there's roughly 100 or 200 something thousand shares floating out there that haven't been shorted yet, but they are already borrowed. And you can do that for a variety of reasons. Say for example, if you're short on a stock, right? If you're short on a stock and then you're sitting there and you're going, okay, well, I'm going to borrow these shares, and then you can use them to, for example, to help waterfall. So by unloading shares very quickly, it's called bid whacking. You can shuffle off shares with a high frequency trading machine to basically make the stock drop very aggressively to hopefully scare retail. If you do that in combination with a couple other people, another couple hedge funds that are also shorting it, you can make some aggressive moves. That's what you saw with GameStop, AMC, and a couple other ones. But have you ever seen those really scary red bars when they just make it look like the absolute worth? Yeah, that's what they do. But sometimes they'll borrow those shares just to literally sell them off that way. Instead of shorting them, they'll just sell them off as quickly as possible, because normally when you're selling something, you want to get as much money for it as possible. So you don't want to just get rid of them as fast as possible. You want to stagger it, and hopefully if you can sell against buying pressure, you can make more money that way. When you see people just shuffling off these shares as fast as possible to create these waterfalls, essentially what's happening is they're just doing it for intimidation, just to basically show hey, we can just drop the stock and scare the crap out of you. And people who aren't used to watching this stuff all day, they'll freak out and they'll sell. So Yeah, ATER had all those waterfalls back in April. It was insane. And that's what they do, is they borrow those shares with the intention of just shuffling them off with bid whacking. Or they could, hold on to them and then and short them later on. So, like, you'll see this number actually start going up because the shares that have been borrowed already but haven't been shorted will start going into this column. So, I don't know if you mentioned tomorrow what's looking forward to earnings on Monday. No. I mean, like, at this point right now, I'm expecting a lot of these stocks run up into earnings and then they fall. This is just a hint for anyone that's, maybe new to the market, or there's a saying that you hear a lot, which is buy the rumor, sell the news, right? So what it means is people will buy ahead of time, and then when the stock actually gets the news, they sell it, right? So that's typically how it works. Now, the thing I can tell you, going back to BBAI, the reason why I'm super, I like this as well, is if you want a very low risk stock, this one right here had something super interesting happen, right? So as it's been pushed down, it's going to accumulate here in the twos probably, and then what will end up happening is, see this gap up here? There was a large gap from, I don't know, roughly, if I pull it up on here, maybe I can see it better. I think, was it on earnings or was it after? Yeah, it was right here. So from basically like 9 down to 790, there's a gap, a daily gap. And since then, we've not gotten anywhere close to it, right? So we're down here on earnings, right? So we're getting pushed down. If an earnings beat, you're going to see it fly up, right? Or if it drops even more, I mean, to me, this is a no-brainer because it's going to go back up and fill this gap at some point. So if you want an easy, 3x, this is a stock that it's low liquidity, right? So that the stock will start moving once there's some volume. But this stock does not get a lot of volume. So, but this is a stock I like. I do like BBAI long-term. And I'm fine buying and holding it down here for my personal portfolio and my retirement account because I think in the future they're going to be worth a lot more. So for me, if I was doing this, I would probably buy some calls to sell and make money here when it eventually fills that gap. And the rest of the time, I'm going to be accumulating shares because I want to hold them long term. So that's my personal strategy. But okay. Yeah, that's right. AMC did that exactly, right? So if we pulled up AMC, right? So it was buy the rumor, sell the news, right? So if we're here, it was, pumping up through the day. Everyone's like, AMC to the moon. This thing's going up forever. They're going to crush the shorts when they release this new ape news. And it came out that there's basically dilution. And while some people are saying that it's a good thing, they couldn't get people to sign on to. I'm just going to try to break it down as simply as I can. From what I saw, at least, I didn't go into all the press releases, and I haven't read the entire document myself. But from what I gathered, what happened was AMC needs cash. And this is something, if you look at their balance sheet, you will see that they are still billions in debt, or maybe slightly less than. It's been a while since I looked at them because I don't hold much of a position in them. I think I've got a small call for 2023, just in case it MOAS. But this is a stock that I personally was not super high on, just because their balance sheet was not as good as some of the other ones. They had a huge amount of debt, and to me, I haven't seen a way to actually generate this money back as people start watching more stuff at home. So for me, I know there's still people going to the movie theaters, and that's great. And it seems like they're doing better. I saw the earnings. Some aspects went up, which is a great thing, but they still have massive amounts of debt. So they need to basically pay off those debts to really become healthy. Now, the problem is shareholders don't want to be diluted because that would kill the squeeze, right? They've built up all this momentum. So what happened was they allowed these guys, I think, in somewhere in a couple years ago, they had like a clause that they could raise money through, I think, premiums, like a premium stock. So like basically they're issuing out basically a new ticker in order to get around the shareholders for AMC, from what I understand, to basically like, dilute without diluting. It's like a roundabout way of raising money, but it's still dilutive in nature, I think. Let me check. Let me see if they have any news on AMC's announcement, because we can look it up together. I haven't had enough time to actually go through other stuff. So if we go to news, PR news, and I listen, I hate Main Street news because I think it's usually skewed. So I don't typically do it. Like, I'll use that and then try to dig deeper. Okay. Here's the full press release. That's not what I need. I need something. A special dividend, right? They're putting out a special dividend in the form of this ape, right? Ape ticker. So based off of their shares outstanding, they're issuing a dividend of preferred equity units. This is basically like a roundabout way of like diluting and raising money. I own Ape NFT. Now, yeah, I don't think this is going to squeeze out shorts, to be honest with you. But like, I'd have to dig into this whole thing because I'm not seeing. Okay, let me see. There's anyone else got an opinion on this? Because I'm, the dividend can be converted to AMC shares, but requires shareholder approval. Yeah, but I don't know if it's going to squeeze out. AMC isn't generating any money from the dividend. Are you sure? Hold on. Let me see. Okay, let's take a look. Pulling up right now. Sorry. All right, so there'll be if you own a legitimate share of AMC, you will get a share of APE. It's going to function like a share count. Shorts will have to come and purchase and provide shares for each short they hold a position in. They will have 2 days to do this from when APE goes up. Market makers will have 35 calendar days to cover. Let's see. All right, so AMC is issuing a preferred stock dividend because it's supposed to be a 1-for-1 of AMC's float, which is 516 million shares. When millions of people don't get their APE shares, it exposes the synthetics. They can't be traded. It's not a Class A common stock. That's what somebody said. Let's see what other people are saying. AMC raised billions of dollars by selling new common shares. It ran out of things to sell. The company tried to obtain shareholder approval to issue more commons, but it had difficulty corralling the investor base to support the initiative. The company's new move instead is offering preferred equity units as a workaround to that constraint. It frees up a number of units that it could sell as it continues to face challenges due to the pandemic. The offer of APE into dividend shareholders, the AMC will still have to close 4.5 billion remaining units that could be sold according to filings. Is that a workaround? I'm just, yeah. So we have to look into basically how this all will work, because I think I need to read the filing. Okay. It dilutes the share price, but the shareholders still own the same amount of equity. Okay. Adam Aaron said it could generate money in the future by offering more APE equities. Okay. But if we get Toots buying up all these short shares, then shorts are in deep doo-doo. It gets real interesting real quick. Yeah, I think this is dilutive, but I have to read the filing. So let's do that. I'm not going to assume anything. I'm just going to read the filing myself, and then I'll come up with how I feel about it tomorrow when I go through and look at it. But I've seen other people's takes on this. Some people are saying it's dilutive. Other people are saying it's, going to send it to the moon. To me, I'm skeptical. It sounds to me like it's dilutive. It's like a way around, basically. But we'll see. I'll go through it, though, for you guys. Okay. Everyone, please talk about ATER. Sure. I mean, I talk about ATER every night, but obviously ATER... Oh, we're here. Sorry. We're already up. That was BBAI. Okay. I guess GME must have had a sympathy play, because it did the same exact thing as AMC in the after hours. It's funny how those two play together like that. Same algo. All right. Yeah, we can go over the NNVC as well. It dilutes the share price, but shareholders still... Yeah, we read that. Okay. So yeah, Tyrion had a nice day. Like, it almost had a 10% day, which is nice. It did hit a high of, what was it, like 295 before coming back down to basically 273. But it had a really nice, jump up there. It bounced close to that area of resistance that we've seen before. It cut through that and then got pushed down. There was obviously some buying pressure here. You see the volume did pick up. So that's, an interesting development. We're starting to see slightly more volume. Like we normally average between like 2 and 3 million on the daily, and we got 5.8 million today. So volume picked up on Tyrion slightly today. So that's always interesting. Yep. We're talking about Tyrion right now. So that's a good thing. Like, we want to see volume coming back to the stock. Obviously, we have earnings coming up, so this could just be some shorts. It also could be a institution buying in before the earnings, thinking that maybe the earnings are going to go up. That's possible as well. Obviously, we know, for example, let me pull up Ortex for you. Marco Polo said Israeli hedge fund bought today. Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously somebody bought. Like, that was more shares than normal. So let's do Ortex real quick. Okay. And we're doing ATER. All right, here we go. So as you see, it's about 30% shorted, about 9.6 roughly for the estimated live short interest. So it's basically back to where it was, where we had the exchange reported data. This is a guess. It's not an exact science. So on the stock, though, excuse me. Where are we at? Here we go. Yeah, they let's see. Short interest stayed steady today. I think it was Toots buying in, not covering. Yeah, somebody bought because obviously the volume went up. So, and short interest slightly went up, right? It looked like they added another 21,000 shares. So there you go. Yeah, I mean, so earnings is going to be very telling, and that's the thing I need to kind of continue to look at the DD on Ethereum. Is I haven't had new information in a while. There's been no press releases. There's been no anything. So it's like, okay, there's not much for me to actually talk about. So this will be the next step, which is we had earnings back here. We got the numbers in. Now we're going to get some new numbers from the second quarter, and we'll have a little bit more to go off of. So it's usually like that into then the winter. So I'm curious. I mean, obviously there's been some pretty hot weather. Are the AC selling well? And Amazon, that's the type of questions I have. Is revenue going to go up? Is earning per share going to go down? Who knows? But that's the stuff we need to find out for Materian. I want to hear Yaniv and the CFO talk about what they're planning on doing. To me, I think they need to get some money coming in constantly, like a subscription style thing, to kind of keep cash flow coming into the company, so that way they don't have to keep dipping down. And I want to know where cash flow is. I know how much cash they have on hand, and so there you go. But yeah, we'll know more on Monday after earnings. When they release the information, it usually comes out around 5 o'clock, and then they do an earnings call shortly after. So you'll see the stock plummet, I'm sure, based off that. It just, if it's been anything like the last couple of earnings, this is what they do every single time. They push the stock down just because they can push the stock wherever they feel like it. And then, it usually settles out a couple days down the line, and they'll adjust all their stuff. But as of recently, I think the 5-star value to buy was under anything under 180, which was basically current asset values based off the last balance sheet. So there you go. Yeah, that's going to be the key, Jake, is we need to find out how much Ethereum's going through a month. I know shipping costs have gone down, but it seems like logistic and all that stuff has gone up within the country. So, these are all very interesting things. Took a run through the S1 and had a question. Yeah, so they own 5.2. If you want me to go over that one, that's fine. I can show you the same exact thing. So if we pull up ATER, go down here, right? So the private placement was for 9 million shares, right? And they go, let's go here to holders. Armistice right now already owns almost 8% of the company, right? So those warrants they have, right, they got them at $320, and their shares they got at $290, right? So what I think is going to happen is if they wanted to exit their position, they're going to have to push the stock price up, right? Because if they're going to basically do an exchange where they're going to sell their shares they got at $290, they probably want to push it as high as they can, knowing that they're going to be able to dilute by buying out their warrants. So what they would probably do is make a run on it. It would say, meaning they'll push the stock price up, they'll slap the ask. Retail will come FOMOing in, and they'll start, getting the stock higher and higher each day, and then at some point they'll start selling their shares they bought at 290 and start exchanging them for the warrants they have at 320, and then that way they maintain their 10% or 9.99%. But at the same time, they would go through and make some money off the ones that they already had and bought down. So that's just my thought of what they might do. It's obviously a guess. They could just sit on them for a while. That's possible too. But no matter what, they have to bring the stock price up to minimum of 320 for them to unlock those warrants. So yeah, and they don't have to. They don't have to do those warrants right away. Hedge funds got to pay. Like, this is something that, down the line you may see. But for them, my guess would be it'd be more profitable for them to push the stock price up so they can allow this dilution and also make a little bit of money on the side. So that's just my thought. But yeah, I that's why I'm not freaked out about this, because I know they have to push the stock price back up to basically unlock any of that stuff. So. All right, there you go with that. All right, you want to cover REV? That's fine, we can do that. All right, Revlon. To me, they're interesting because Revlon probably has the best numbers out of all the short squeeze ones. And I think somebody said, like, gun to your head, like, which one are you picking? And I said, REV would probably be it, as long as we know that these, I guess the way I put it is this: there is a ATM, and we have to find out about their $1.4 billion restructuring from their Chapter 11. So those are two things we really need to know a lot more about. But on paper, they look absolutely phenomenal. So, and I'll show you. If you look at their short stuff, right, they still have like 70% of the free float shorted. So even though the numbers are going down, their cost to borrow is still very high. Their utilization right now has dropped, but at the same time, I think it's one of those like fluky things where they bought some stuff back, so there's some shares available. But this thing can move because like they are cash flow positive technically, and they're not like, yeah, they need to restructure and reduce some of their debt, but at the same time, like, they're a profitable company. So yeah, I don't know about Armis either, Jake. I feel like all these guys, like the Hudsons and the Armistice and some of these other like hedge funds who also loan money out to these small caps, I feel like they're just playing on both sides. Like they basically buy shares long, buy short the stock also, and then they just yo-yo it, making money on each direction. That's my guess. Is basically they hit these things up like piggy banks when they feel like it. So I don't know if they're good actors or bad actors, if they really want to be part of the company long term. Obviously, private placement would tell you maybe they do, but at the same time, it's hard to say. So yeah, High Trail's the other one. There's a couple of these guys, and if you wanted to know, the Armistice and High Trail are the ones that own the warrants. So Jake, are you in the Discord? I just wanted to see if you were part of our Discord, if you're reading through the filings. Or, sorry, hedge funds got to pay also. If you guys are both in, I'm just curious if you guys are in there, if you've been reading through the S1s. And all right, well, let me finish REV, and then I'll get to the other tickers. Just when I'm kind of wrapping up with it, just throw it out there, and I'll look into it. Because I know there's, I need to figure out a system to kind of like let you guys vote on what we should talk about, and then we'll talk about. I'll go in like order. Maybe we can do that in the Discord at some point in the future. Okay. But yeah, I do like these guys. I think they're a lower risk one as far as squeeze plays goes, because there's plenty of them that are like absolutely like Redbox was a trash stock. Like they're worth literally cents, but they had really good short interest numbers. And once they went through that merge, they basically eliminated their warrants. And so once they did that, that was off the table. Well, then what happened was they put the warrants back, and then they're still going through the merger, and the stock's been dying since then, basically. And it wasn't all their fault. They would have squoze, except for they cut off the gamma on that. So they cut off the gamma ramp there. Okay, hold on. Looks like my wife's bringing one of her friends home to have more cocktails, I guess. All right, so where are we? I'm sure they'll just drink wine and have conversations upstairs while I'm sitting here talking to you guys. All right, so Revlon, they're offering abilities high because they have this shelf right here that's registered. And they have another ATM. So this is the only thing that would concern me about Revlon is they have the ability to raise money if they want to. They don't really need it though. They're actually cash flow positive of like $6 million a quarter. So like they don't need the money, but at the same time, like who's going to turn down, like if your stock's running really high, who's going to turn down some like basically free money? Especially when you are, had a huge amount of debt and you were restructuring. So, yeah, I like this one. I think they're interesting, and I think they've got some of the better squeeze numbers. If I remember correctly on Fintel when I pulled it up, I think they're number one on Fintel for both gamma squeeze and or number two on short squeeze and number one on gamma squeeze. So these guys have potential to go up, and so does BBBY. Oh, SST's back on there. Interesting. Haven't seen that name in a while. Yeah, look at Ethereum's is getting back up there. That's interesting. Huh. Did people start buying the weeklies going into this week? Is that why? I didn't cover options on Ethereum. Hold on, let me just see. Did something weird happen on the options when I wasn't paying attention? All right, we're going to find out. Okay, options this week. Oh, yeah. Somebody bought a bunch of 250s. That's going to be a huge target for the market makers. That's a huge target for the market makers. Ugh. Yeah, I mean they've got the potential. It looks like they've basically loaded up the next 3 weeks options chains for basically like 250s and 3s. To me, I would want to see more like lower ones that are in the money to really kind of cement that in to get them onto that gamma ramp. But yeah, I mean it's got potential. Options are cheap, so they look. Yeah, I'm afraid market makers are. We need streaming model. I agree. We need. I told you guys, I have like the worst, absolutely worst, like YouTube channel. Like looking at other people, they've got all their stuff put together, and I'm like a dude sitting here with a blank screen, and you guys somehow are listening to me. I mean, granted, not a lot of you, but yeah, I'm not getting thousands like some people, but I think we do a decent job talking about stocks and fundamentals and, trying to, look at things from a pretty objective manner. So, I'm not going to be exciting and wooing on screen and jumping around. But at the same time, I think we cover an important aspect, which is, let's take a look for mines on some of these stocks, especially new ones that we don't really know much about. And then, we can kind of go from there. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do is just educate if I can, do my best to do that. You saw Matt Kors cry today. Wait, what? Why did he cry? He's one of those guys that, like, I think he's learned a lot more about the market in the last couple of years. But I was going to say, he was, he just happened to be a YouTuber doing financial stuff. He must have bought options near expiration. What, on AMC or something? He's got 13,000 followers. That's pretty impressive. Like, I feel like him and Trey were two guys that were, like, just in the right place, right time, as far as, like, they were amusing enough to people wanted to watch them trade stocks, but at the same time, they didn't know a ton about, like, fundamentals and all this stuff, and they've learned a lot since then, but, like, they were just kind of doing it. And yeah, what did they finish today? Slightly under 19, right? So if he bought, I don't know, like $20 calls, and it fell to 16 after hours, we'll see. It's going to leave a gap, though, if that happens. But isn't he in that competition with the hedge fund guy that went to jail? Maybe. Here's the thing. Like, I don't really keep up with other YouTubers, to be honest with you. And it's nothing with, like, ego or anything. It's just I don't have time because I work a full-time job, and so I'm, like, actually, like, at work. And then when I get home, I eat dinner with my family. We put the kids to bed, and then I come down and stream with you guys. So I don't have a lot of free time to, like, watch other stuff. So Trey just kind of hung it up recently, I think. I mean, it's tough sometimes, like, people are constantly asking you things, and if if you give your opinion, it's, it didn't go with the way you thought, people then blame you. I've gotten death threats before, I mean, during, like, the spurt stuff, like, and I told people, I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen now. I tried, like, I literally called, like, a bunch of different, like, I called the SEC, I called FINRA, I called the transfer agent. I couldn't get anyone to give me more details about the merger. And I was told by the brokers that, it's not a good idea holding, this is, like, basically, they were like, for a short, it's dangerous to hold through a corporate action. That's what they literally told me. They said it's not advisable. And I said, okay, so does that mean they have to close? And they're like, well, you'd have to talk to, I'm like, well, you guys are the ones lending out those shares. Like, do you close their stuff or not? And they're like, we can't give you an answer to that. And I'm like, okay, well, who can? And they're like, well, you'd have to talk to basically, the SEC. And I'm trying, like, so I just was calling everyone. I couldn't get anyone to, like, respond to me. And then, like, afterwards, I'm like, listen, I don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, the stock's falling. So, like, if you guys want to leave, you're more than welcome to. At that point, I was like, I already lost, like, 60-70% on my options. I'm like, I might as well just hold through and see what happens. And yeah, Scarelli, is that how you pronounce it? It's like Matt Scarelli or something like that, or what's his name? Sorry, hold on, what's his name? He was Martin Scarelli. Yeah, he's the pharma guy that, like, charged all that, and then he committed securities fraud and went to jail for it for a while. Yeah, he's a smart guy. I gotta give him that. Like, he's a smart guy, but he's obviously, the pharma bro, and people hated him because, like, he basically just said, I'm going to raise the price of these things, because he knew the insurance companies would pay for it, so he could charge whatever he wanted. However, obviously, that doesn't make you endeared to the average American people, so... And he lost the douchebag genius, yeah. I mean, he was big. I mean, when I was coming up through Wall Street Bets, he was, a lot of people's idol. And I'm like, that's not a guy I looked up to, but he is smart. I will give him that. He's a very brilliant guy. He obviously understands these numbers better than a lot of these people. So, but He lost to Wu-Tang. Yeah, he owned, I guess, like an NFT of like a Wu-Tang thing that went for like a couple $1,000,000 or something, and it was something like that, wasn't it? Like Wu-Tang. We can pull it up for you if you're interested. Yeah, he basically won the Wu-Tang album, which was like a unique artwork NFT. What was the deal with it? He purchased it for $2 million. It was promoted as a unique work of art with no physical or digital duplication in existence. It included appearances from the Wu-Tang family, from Redman to Kill Army. Upon learning it was Skrelly, though, that bought the album, they decided to give a portion of the proceeds to charity. It's probably smart. Sounds like my wife's home. Yeah, it was an unpublished album. He owned one album. It was like a one of one. Let's see. So the government sold his album, though, and another collector basically paid $4 million for it. But they seized it, I guess, when they arrested him. So, and he tried to he claimed that he was charging those outrageous prices so he could give away to free for people in poor countries. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like, did you guys ever see the canceling thing? There was those the cancel where they got cancer culture. It was on Netflix, but basically it was the guy that stocked up on hand sanitizer and then was charging a little bit more. But like when you heard it from his side of the story, basically he bought all this stuff knowing that he was going to resell it. He was going to mark it up, obviously, some, but he was like, when we did this piece, I got painted as this villain that stocked up and like was keeping people from being able to get it. He was like, I was intending to resell it, but Amazon blocked him from reselling it. And his gripe was like, basically you guys cut me off for whatever reason, and now I'm sitting on all this inventory. I need to get it out. Like I can lower the prices, but yeah, they made him give away all the free hand sign. Yeah, like so he's from yeah. I mean, I don't think he was, a monster. Obviously, he was trying to provide for his family, but at the same time, it's like one of those, like, it was like kind of a dick move, but like not like a full-on dick move. So, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, maybe he was intending that. It's just I think we make out people to be. I think most time in life there's a gray area, and that's where most people live. There's good, there's bad. It's not like in the stories where it was a dick move. And obviously he is now paid for it, and his business has basically gone out. Like nobody will buy and sell from him, so he's having to yeah. But like I heard, I want to like always try to like understand things from a like kind of holistic perspective, and so when I look at something like that, hearing his side of the story, it made more sense why somebody would have done that. Because, it's a dick move to grab all the hand sanitizers and then, try to mark it up. But at the same time, that's essentially what his business was. It was basically buying and selling things that people want, and then he charges, on top of that, that's how he makes his living. And so, it wasn't like he just did it for, out of nowhere. He had a business set up for that. And then he got cut off. And then once that happened, he complained, and he thought the Post was going to do a thing about how Amazon was basically squashing the small guy, and instead they turned it into basically him being the villain. So yeah, and I'm totally fine with people being upset with him. And that's but I think there's always two sides to every story, and so. I think the reason why, for example, I do I don't know if you guys like Game of Thrones, but I like Game of Thrones because the characters were really interesting. If you remember, Jaime Lannister in the beginning, and within the second or third episode, he literally pushes a kid off a balcony, and you're like, oh my god, this is like the most terrible person in the world. And by the end of the show, you're like kind of rooting for him, and you're like, this dude's like having sex with his sister and like pushing kids off, but he has redeemable quality. And I think that's what I think George R. R. Martin does a really good job of, is, you know, actually having, oh, the Kingslayer. Yeah, Dirty Nose. Kingslayer. But yeah, it's the duality of man. Like, people aren't just good or bad. You're usually some combination of, you know, both. And so, yeah. Anyway, moving on to ticker. Sorry, I got sidetracked. All right. So what do we need to do? There was a couple I saw up here. Let's scroll back up. Okay. Okay. NNVC. Let's try that one. NNVC. What do we know about these guys? Obviously, they went up 48%. Is that 40? Yeah, 48% right there for today. So that's a large move up. So what's going on with these guys? Let me look on the daily. Okay, so this shot up out of nowhere like a cannon. This was consolidating. It had this move up here, consolidating. Like, this could have been a really long bull flag, but like that's an aggressive move. So what's going on with these guys? NNVC, nanovirus. I don't know how to even say that. Let's see. They're biotech. They develop it's a development stage company creating special purpose nanomaterials for antiviral therapy. That's actually a good area to be in. All right, so they've been diluting in the past, so they're historically, that's a high chance of dilution in the future. They have an ATM right now for, looks like about 2 million shares based off their share price of about 3 right now, roughly. Yeah, it's about like 2 million something shares roughly. 2.2. Yeah. They are not cash positive yet, but they do have at least 2 years worth of cash based off their current burn. Most of their shelf is gone, so there's not a whole lot left for them unless they apply for a new one. They underwrote some warrants back in 2020, and nothing really since then besides this ATM. There must be news on them, right? They begun. Oh, this is the monkeypox one. Okay. Float of about roughly 11. Let's just call it 11 million. Holders: Vanguard, BlackRock, Geode, Renaissance. Okay, so those are good ones. UBS, Warden. Okay, so these are good companies that are holding it. Let's see how their financials look. Okay, so cash went down by 5 million roughly. Prepaid expenses the same. So current assets roughly are 15, or let's call it 16 million. Property and all that stuff is about the same. Trademarks and patents about the same. Let's call total assets at 25, with a caveat that hard assets are, current assets are about 16 million. Okay. They don't have a ton of liabilities though. Okay. And right now they've got designated 10 million shares, but they're only using a fraction of that, right? Because the common stock is about 11 million shares, 11.5 million shares. How many insider shares do we say? Insider shares must be about like 600,000 roughly. I don't know. It doesn't have high short, but like, if these guys get volume, they're gonna fly, because they have a small float, right? So tiny float. Let's see what their Vortex looks like. And Is it NNV? What was it? NNV? What is it? NNVC. All right, let's take a look. Yeah, I mean, so there's still obviously some shares outstanding. They haven't really, like, they weren't like heavily shorted or anything like that. So if this thing's running, it's running based off purely like news driven. And, you know, if they push it super high, then shorts will come in because they'll say that's too high. That's not what your company's fundamentally. But let's just take a look at fundamentals on this. Just according to Ortex, I'm just curious what they have. Last year they had them valued at like 2.6. That's what they thought the book value on the stock was about 2.6 million, or sorry, $2.60. So it's been, you know, trading. Right now you're slightly higher than the book value on the stock. Let's see what quarterly it looks like. Quarterly about 229 based off the second quarter. But yeah, I mean, if they're gonna, you know, if they have some sort of, you know, new thing that's come out, then that's going to be big news, and they could be worth more than what they're trading for right now. They're in development for monkeypox. I mean, granted, that doesn't mean that they're going to figure it out or that they're going to, you know, win the government contracts down the line. But yeah, they're basically, you know, prepping for if monkeypox becomes the next big thing. These guys would probably, if they are further ahead in research, then they might have something, or they could be acquired by a company that does. So that's what I'd say. Check the historical volume. Hold on. Yeah, it's... Yeah, an NVC. So yeah, I think this looks good as long as, you know, like, you know what the book value is. So 250s or 229 was the book value from the last second quarter. You're trading above that. So there's a risk of, you know, overpaying a little bit for it, but it's not like super bad. But these biotechs will spike on like anything. Like, look at these, you know. So but that was probably the spring. This was accumulation, and now you have some news coming out. We'll see. But that would be an interesting one. The short volume from today was 8 million, was it? It doesn't show it on Ortex, but then again, it's Ortex. Love how I have them, but like I crap on them. Hope they don't pull my subscription. Or you want to talk trash on us? We'll pull your subscription. Now you can't show anyone. Yeah, I don't see the live shortest interest being that high, but okay. I just gotta go scroll up. I gotta figure out. Hold on. The books were better. I agree. The books were better on Game of Thrones. I also listened to them on audio. He'll never finish his next book. Was it The Winds of Winter? The last book? I mean, I heard somebody that wrote basically an alternative ending to the show that, I mean, if they finished that way, it would have been so cool. And it still had, like, sacrifice and people died, but, like, it was just a very different take. And where, like, if they'd ended the show that way, I would have been, like, ecstatic because I thought it was just a well-written... It was basically a writer who said, you know, the show messed up and this is how it should have ended. Because he tied, like, all the stuff back together, even, like, remember, like, they made a big deal out of all these symbols, and then they like, forgot about it. All right. So their volume has been trending up, second largest insurance company in the U.S. Who is this? Oh, you're talking about Sense? Yeah, so Sense actually, I like them long term as far as like they could turn it around. I think it was, yeah, Sensonics Holdings. If I remember correctly, I think they're even like based out of, I think them and BBAI are both based out of like the East Coast, if I remember correctly. Let's see. Yeah, and these guys were part of that club. I have a club called the February 8th Club, which all these stocks have been 100% utilization, and Sense is one of them. So I think they're going to go through. They've had two nice days in a row. These massive. Now, they did gap up a little bit, I think. Didn't they gap up here? Yeah, they gapped up a little bit. So you may see that fill at some point, but they had a nice jump, and good for them because they got pushed down for a long, long time. Like, literally, like, they shouldn't have been trading down this range. All right. I'm going to do a couple more of these, and then I'm going to go because I'm tired. So, all right. Nope, that's iGov. That's not what I want. I want GOVX. GOVX. Yeah, we talked about these guys before, I think. Yeah, they got some volume. I think they filled the gap, right? That was left before. That's good. Everything looks in order here. Cost to borrow has gone up. That's good. It's back here at 100% utilization. 40%, free float. Yeah, I mean, this is a squeeze stock. So, I mean, it's not a huge amount, but it's there. Well, that's a huge jump. Is that right? It went from 100,000 shares to 5.92 million. Wait, what? That's a lot, if that's correct. Let's see. Cost to borrow has been up. That's good. Yeah, they'll probably make a nice aggressive move. I mean, they kind of already did, but we'll see if they consolidate here and get another leg up or what's going on. Let's see if there's any dilution on it. Yeah, they have some dilution available in the warrants, but the warrants are at 165 for May. So those can be used at any time. So they may run it up a little bit more, but then once this thing, gets up to a certain point, they're going to start diluting. So just be careful of this one, okay? Quick. I was going to say, they haven't done it yet from what I see. Look, but you got 9 million shares at 165, and it's Armis that owns them. So they haven't executed them yet, but they can. So they have the ability to bring it down. They also have these pipe warrants here at 3 million at $3. So this one has dilution underneath it. So just be careful with that one. And OBSV. There we go. Medium risk for dilution. They do have some stuff out. They've got warrants, 1.6 million warrants at 367, million warrants at 187, and about 500,000 at 343. They also have these, looks like convertible notes with tranches. So tranche 1, tranche 2, raising another. So there's dilution on this one as well. A little bit left on the ATM. So, yeah. So there you go. They still have some ability to, dilute a little bit further. So just throwing that out there. Okay. Yeah, I think that's going to be it for me tonight, guys. Appreciate you hanging out. If you're new to this channel, if you can like and subscribe, that'd be great. And then just on top of that, if you're interested, we have a free Discord that we run. It's just mainly for education purposes, and people talk about what they're trading and stuff like that. It's fun. I mean, most of the people in there are the same ones that have been hanging out here in the chat. But yeah, if you want to join us, I'll leave a link. I had one in the beginning of the video, and I'm going to add one here at the end. So if you've listened through this entire time, that would be... There you go. There's the link to it, and once again, it's free. It literally, no charge at all. And yeah, you guys have a great evening. Catch you tomorrow. Wait, tomorrow's Friday. I may or may not stream. We'll see. But you guys have a great evening. If not, I'll either be on Sunday or Monday. Okay? Have a great weekend. Oh, yeah. I did hear back from the optionality guys. They said next week might be fine. Make sure I got it. Let's see. No, they didn't write back yet. But yeah. We'll do it some other time. But we'll probably be doing it next week. Awesomeness. So